Hey, good to see you again. Let's turn our attention now fully to the West and concentrate on Judaism. Now, early Judaism and later Judaism are actually very different religions. There's the Judaism before the Babylonian exile and the Judaism after. And the Judaism after has picked up a lot of ideas from Zoroastrianism, as we just discovered. But pre-exilic Judaism is what we find mostly in the Jewish scriptures. And it's often a little different from what we immediately think of it being. So let's ask our question, what's the problem? And to answer that, imagine yourself as part of the Jewish people at the moment that they really have a sense of their collective destiny. So here they are, they have just fled from Egypt, and Pharaoh's armies are coming after them. The Red Sea rolls back and they pass over on dry land. And just as Pharaoh's armies are coming after them, the sea closes over and drowns the army and saves the people. And here they are in the desert. Just them and their God. But no, not just them and their God, because they are a wandering people now. They don't have a homeland. They don't have homes. They're a couple of 100,000 people that are homeless and on foot and moving through other people's territory. So, there's the guy saying, "Damn kids, get off my lawn," when it's just a couple kids. What do you think the Gentile kings are saying when it's 200,000 people moving across his lawn? Not happy about it. And this is why we see in the Torah that the Jewish people are terrified of being attacked and killed by their Gentile neighbors on every side. And this is the existential dilemma that is at the heart of salvation for the Jewish people. What's the problem? According to Judaism, everyone wants to kill us. We've got these Gentile neighbors over here and Gentile neighbors over here, and they're coming after us with armies. And we, can barely get dinner together. How do we protect ourselves? That's the dilemma. And that's quite a dilemma. That is the human condition as the Jewish people were experiencing it on the run in the desert. So the risk of extinction once more rears its head. You remember we talked about the risk of extinction when we were talking about native peoples. This isn't very far removed from that, but it's a new situation. It's not just how do we live on the land, but how do we stay alive when we have murderous neighbors all around us, all clamoring for our blood. So once again, it's the risk of extinction. Once again, it's the survival of the tribe that is at stake. But this time, there's this kind of military aspect to it as well. So what's the remedy? How do we solve this problem? How do we ensure that the tribe survives? Divine protection. We make a deal with God, or rather God makes a deal with us, right? Because that's the way it actually happens, or this is the way that the story is told, that God will protect us from our murderous neighbors. But then what's the means of this protection? So that's how we survive. God's going to protect us. But how do we get this protection? What's our end of the bargain? And this is the deal that God makes with Moses on Mount Sinai. God says, I'm going to give you this law. If you keep the law, I will keep you safe from your murderous neighbors. And Moses takes the law down the mountain, sees the golden calf, freaks out, busts up the law, but once again, eventually presents the law to the people, and the people accept it. And so now, this is a new thing. You've got this God who has entered into mutually binding covenant with human beings. This is something we have not really seen in human religion before. The human beings are so far below the gods that they're often really beyond the gods' notice. And certainly, aside from Zeus taking a couple of human women as lovers, really beyond the gods caring that much about human beings. But here we have a God who says, I love you, and I care about you, and I am going to make a commitment to you, and will be accountable to you for my actions, just as you will make a commitment to me, and you will be accountable to me for your actions. And so they enter into covenant. This is why covenant is such an important concept in Judaism. The covenant, the law, and keeping the law are of vital importance in Jewish life, because this is the one way that we can ensure that God will continue to protect us. And this covenant isn't just like a contract. If you have a contract, but if one party breaks the contract, then the contract's null and void. It's not binding on anyone anymore. But in a covenant, if one party breaks the covenant, the other party will uphold the covenant and honor the covenant until the offending party comes around. A marriage isn't a contract, it's a covenant. So when you have one party in the marriage that is untrue to their partner, the other partner can keep the covenant intact until the offending party comes around, and healing can happen and the relationship can be restored. In the best of all possible circumstances, that is what happens, or what can happen. And it's the power of covenant. It's a sacred promise that asks more of us than simply holding up our end. And so this is what we see in Judaism. We see a people who have agreed to keep this law, and a God who agrees to keep them safe. So in the Psalms, when David says, to God, you are my rock and my salvation, this is what he's talking about. This is what salvation means for the Jewish people. We will keep your law, O God, and you will keep us safe. You will allow our tribe to flourish on the earth from one generation to another, and that this tribe will never come to an end. Because if this tribe never comes to an end, there will never be an absence of someone singing your praise. So this is a marriage of sorts. It's a covenant of love between these two parties, the people of Israel and the God of Israel. Now, is this an individual or a corporate form of salvation? Well, it's entirely corporate. I mean, everyone needs to do their individual best to uphold the law in order to keep the covenant in force, and to keep the covenant and the relationship healthy. But God is saving the Jewish people as a people, not as individuals, because it's the tribe and the survival of the tribe that is the most important thing. And this is the human value, that we get this, that the tribe survives, the tribe endures.